About 5 years ago, we started our first actual play campaign here on YouTube, and when we were rolling up our characters for that campaign, the thing that we knew we had to have for the player characters were custom miniatures with Hero Forge, the sponsor for this week's episode.
Hero Forge offers fully customizable tabletop miniatures with dozens of options for you to pick and choose from to customize your mini to whatever your fantasy design goals are. Their easy-to-use design tools lets you build your perfect miniature online using a fully 3D in-depth character creator right in your web browser.
We've loved using Hero Forge miniatures in our games for a long time, and we're really excited to celebrate 5 years of our campaign by ordering a new set of color customized miniatures from Hero Forge as high-level versions of the original characters that we got several years ago. But if you're like us and you don't have as much time for painting miniatures anymore, you're gonna love their color printed miniatures. These are miniatures that come fully colored. You can color them in the app, and they come printed this way. They're absolutely amazing.
Also, Hero Forge has added new face customization tools, allowing you to shape the eyebrows, nose, jawline, and everything else to completely customize the facial expressions of your characters.
With a digital gift card from Hero Forge, your friends or dungeon masters can customize their next character, get them printed, get them shipped to them, whether they want to use a physical miniature, an STL, a digital miniature, paint them themselves, or get the Hero Forge color version. It's a great way to kick off a new campaign in the new year.
For every dungeon master or player out there, a custom miniature might make the perfect gift this holiday season.
Head on over with the links below or at heroforge.com.
Thank you so much to Hero Forge for sponsoring this week's video, and now let's get on to the episode.
Greetings, my name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Callie McLaughlin.
And we are the Dungeon Dudes. And today we're tier ranking the subclasses in the Tal'Dorei campaign setting.
Tal'Dorei is a campaign setting created by Matthew Mercer, originally published by Darrington Press, available on D&D Beyond and many other places. And it includes the world that Matthew Mercer created for the Critical Role campaigns. And it also includes a whole bunch of brand new subclasses, which we're going to be looking at today.
10 subclasses appear in the book, 2 for clerics, 2 for paladins, and 1 for a few different other classes. So we're going to do half of them today and half of them in part 2 of this video.
There's a lot to discuss today, so let's get rolling. Up on screen right now, you're going to see the metrics that we use to rank subclasses. What we're generally looking for is that an S-tier subclass is the best of the subclass options available. It's going to beat out all of the other subclasses available to that class or be one that you should definitely be taking. An A tier is one that you should deeply consider. It's going to be great at the table and have a lot of useful abilities that will help you in play.
A B tier subclass is solid, and it might even be S tier in the right campaign or with the right build, or have a lot of potential for multi-classing or a couple different options. It's just that it's not necessarily the standout strongest of the subclasses available to that class.
A C tier means that the abilities presented are pretty niche and narrow, although sometimes useful. And finally, a D tier is one that you probably should avoid taking. It's just a trap, and nothing here is as good as the other options presented by the other subclasses.
Most of the subclasses that are in the Tal'Dorei book are very combat-oriented and have lots of combat-oriented abilities. So while that is the primary consideration that we give when ranking these classes, we do consider all the pillars of play as well. And finally, just a reminder that we rank these subclasses based on what is available to each individual class, and that multi-classing is not a primary consideration in our rankings.
So kicking things off with the Barbarian, the first subclass that we get to look at in the Tal'Dorei setting, and that is the Path of the Juggernaut. This is a pretty beefy barbarian build that allows you to toss your enemies around and make more advantageous battle positioning for you and your allies.
Thunderous Blows basically lets you push anyone when you're raging 5 feet if you hit them with an attack. If they're huge or bigger, they get a saving throw against it to resist being pushed around. And at 10th level, you get to actually push creatures 10 feet when you hit them as well.
Also at 3rd level, you gain Spirit of the Mountain, which basically means you can't be knocked prone as long as you're raging.
At level 6, you get Demolishing Might, which gives you extra damage to constructs and double damage to objects and structures, as well as the Resolute Stance, which is basically reverse reckless attack. instead of giving yourself advantage on attack rolls in exchange for giving enemies advantage on attack rolls against you, you can take disadvantage on your own attack rolls, and enemies have disadvantage when attacking you. It doesn't say it explicitly, but if you recklessly attack when in Resolute Stance, they negate each other.
You still would get the inability to be grappled from this feature.
Yeah.
Because this feature, if you're in the Resolute Stance, you cannot be grappled. So if you wanted to, you could take both this and the reckless attack and not be grappled, which might be handy.
Yeah, that would be the one benefit to recklessly attacking in a Resolute Stance at the same time, because otherwise advantage and disadvantage cancel each other out. There's nothing explicitly in this ability that says you can't recklessly attack when you're in a Resolute Stance, but you need to be aware that if you do that, it essentially negates itself.
At 10th level, you gain Hurricane Strike. With this ability, as long as you move a creature up to 5 feet, which you're doing with your initial ability, you can then leap up to them. They have to make a strength saving throw equal to your proficiency bonus plus your strength modifier plus 8, or they are knocked prone. This leap doesn't actually cost you any movement. It doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. And additionally, if you push them within 5 feet of an ally, that ally gets to use a reaction to make a single melee weapon attack against the creature. So in theory, you can shove them up to an ally, jump up, knock them prone, and then have your ally hit them with advantage as an opportunity attack.
It's worth noting here that when you're raging, every attack you make that hits pushes targets, which means that by this level, you've got extra attack, which means that you can push a creature twice. This means that potentially multiple allies could have their reactions triggered to attack somebody that you pushed, giving you the ability to grant allies multiple reaction attacks per turn.
This also means that you could push the enemy, knock them prone, and then both you and an ally attack them with advantage.
Indeed, you wouldn't be able to you would have to do that with a second attack or something like that. You wouldn't be able to use your reaction in this case because it has to be an ally.
Yeah, you would use your extra attack action.
Yeah. And finally, at 14th level, you're immune to being frightened, paralyzed, prone, and stunned when you're raging, and you can still enter a rage if you're affected by one of these conditions, ignoring them for the duration. This subclass is good. It's strong. First of all, I also am a fan of the let barbarians push people around a lot trope, and I like the execution here. It's fun.
Yeah, it feels a little reminiscent, not in any way the same, but the same feeling that we wanted to capture when we made our barbarian subclass. The idea of a brute, muscly battle master who could toss people around, use their strength to be really intimidating on the battlefield. And I think that this captures that same element of being able to just push people every time you hit them. And I love the ability of being able to jump up to them. The high level abilities at 10th and 14th levels are great. The abilities you get right away at 3rd level are great. For me, I think that this is an A-tier subclass. It's really, really strong, and it's really, really fun.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
How is this not better and more fun than Bear Totem Barbarians and Zealot Barbarians?
For me, the reason why this isn't an S tier is between 3rd and 10th level. There's a pretty big gap there of a lot of time playing your campaign.
Right.
And the 6th level features, you get 2 of them. Both are somewhat niche, one more so than the other. One, you're doing extra damage to constructs. Great if you're fighting constructs, but that's a pretty rare type of monster.
Meanwhile, the Zealot is doing more damage, and the Bear Totem Barbarian is taking half damage from everything.
Yeah.
Whereas you're just pushing people around. And pushing people around is really good. But yeah, you're right. Like, it's not till 10th level that you get that Hurricane Strike. I feel like, yeah, and then the totem, the Beast Heart or Totem Barbarian is flying.
The Resolute Stance is cool.
Yeah.
It's a great feature, but it does feel like it's working against, not in a bad way, but it is opposed directly to your reckless attack. So what are you going to use? Yeah, you now have both. Do you want to be in a Resolute Stance? I tend to like my barbarians just recklessly attacking all the time. So
yeah,
I
it's
do
a weirdly
think just
tanky ability, and Resolute Stance is not nearly as tanky
as a baritone barbarian.
Well, no, it's tanky in a different way because like it really encourages you when you have an ability that just says attacks against me have disadvantage. It really makes you want to stack your AC really high, and it's hard for barbarians to do that because they don't really have the armor proficiencies to do it. So, okay, yep, I agree. I think you're right. There's a weird gap in this subclass where, like that Hurricane Strike, the 10th and 14th level abilities are amazing.
Yeah.
The 3rd level pushing people around is rock solid.
Yeah.
You're right in that compared to the Zealot and the traditional bear barbarian,
it's just like a shade below.
Yeah,
You're still gonna have a good, like I have nothing bad to say about this. It's really just those 6th level features both feel niche and like I won't use them all the time. And so I just wish if there was a 6th level feature that I was like, I will use this every time I'm in a combat encounter.
Yeah.
Then it would probably be S tier. But it's
I
just
feel
a
like
little bit
the other
down.
two are probably more strong at the gate. I really like pushing people around.
Me too. And I think A tier is kind of where we want people to be landing. Like if you're designing a subclass, A tier is where we want you to land. S tier usually means that you're overpowering something, which is sometimes a lot of fun. We've done it.
Yep.
Other people do it. But I think A tier is great, and I think this is an excellent barbarian subclass.
All right. Well, with the barbarian out of the way, let's look at the College of Tragedy Bard. At 3rd level, the College of Tragedy Bard gains Poetry and Misery. Whenever they or an ally within 30 feet of them roll a 1 on a d20 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, they can use their reaction to soliloquize and regain an expended use of their Bardic Inspiration. So the horrible, dismal failures are kind of giving you a little bit of change back, as long as you have your reaction available when someone rolls that 1.
Also at 3rd level, you gain Sorrowful Fate. Now when you or an ally cause a creature to make a saving throw, you can expend a Bardic Inspiration to change the saving throw type to a Charisma save instead, which can be awesome because Charisma is usually one of the harder saving throws for monsters to make. If the target fails the save, you roll a Bardic Inspiration die, the target takes psychic damage equal to the result, and for 1 minute they are sad and they quote emo lyrics when they die.
It's worth noting that although it's no action for you to turn the saving throw from whatever it was before into a Charisma save, which lets you do some weird things like turn like a Constitution saving throw into a Charisma saving throw, you can only use it once per short or long rest. You can't just dump all your Bardic Inspiration die into it.
Yeah.
At level 6, you learn to weave a magical narrative that draws out the fatal arrogance of your foes. And when they score a critical hit, you can use a reaction, expend a Bardic Inspiration, and for the next minute until the target suffers a critical hit, any attack roll against them is a crit on an 18, 19, or 20 instead of just normally a 20. And at higher levels, this opens up to a 17 to 20.
Also at 6th level, you gain Impending Misfortune. When you make an attack roll or a saving throw, you can gain a +10 bonus to the roll, but the next attack roll or saving throw you make takes a -10 penalty. This penalty disappears if you take a short or long rest, and once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest or are reduced to 0 hit points.
And at 14th level, the Nimbus of Posos lets you touch a creature, give them an advantage on attack rolls and saving throws, cause extra damage on their attacks, and they also get +4 to their AC. But attacks crit them on an 18 to 20, and at the end of that minute, they drop to 0 hit points and they're dying. And you can invoke the Nimbus of Posos once per day. This is a weird bard subclass because a lot of its abilities trigger on reactions, require you to spend a Bardic Inspiration die, but you want to have your reaction open so that you can get your Bardic Inspiration die back on the ones. So you're going to run into a lot of instances where you used your ability and then someone rolled the 1, and so you can't get your change back because you've already spent your reaction. Or where someone rolled the 1, you got your Bardic Inspiration die back, but now you missed the opportunity to use one of your abilities in some way. The feature that lets you turn a saving throw from whatever it was to Charisma is amazing, although very limited in the respect that it's once per short or long rest. So I feel like a lot of the abilities of this class are a very big gamble. You have a chance of expending resources and it not mattering.
First, I'll say what I like. I think that the theme here is excellent. It's very obviously inspired by a particular theme that is really being driven home in this class. It drips with the theme of the class. But all of the abilities that use your Bardic Inspiration die, you're trading a Bardic Inspiration die for a maybe. And yeah, that's kind of the case with a lot of bards. There's a lot of reroll d20s or like, you know, add extra bits to this. But a lot of these features, you get maybe one use on them, or you're using your Bardic Inspiration die. The fact is that if you use your Bardic Inspiration die to try to get a crit on an 18, 19, or 20, that still might never happen. And also, if they roll a 20 and they crit, your ability didn't do anything. Really, it's only 18 or 19.
Yeah, that's the weird part about that. Like, if it had have been when an enemy crits an ally, you can spend a Bardic Inspiration die to force the next attack that hits them to be a crit in return. That would have been great.
That would have been great. But instead, you're saying, oh no, you crit me. You take the crit anyway.
Yeah, the crit's not negated. Your ally takes it, and then you're getting an increase to your critical hit chance in exchange for a Bardic Inspiration die, which feels expensive.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that it's a gamble.
Yes.
And a lot of these abilities.
The tragedy of the subclass is that all of its abilities are expensive gambles, and a lot of the strength of this class is all in turning bad things happening to your party. Like, really and truly, you don't want to roll ones. You don't want to get crit. And so, you know what spell negates this entire subclass? Silvery barbs.
Which the bard could have.
The bard could have, but it's a reaction. So in that respect, you're almost better to. I mean, obviously, many people do ban silvery barbs, so that's one thing that we'll put aside. But even then, like, a bard with silvery barb, any other bard subclass with silvery barbs is going to just eat this guy's lunch.
I think this is a C subclass. I don't think it's a trap. I don't think it's garbage. I do think that you're playing a gambler.
I think it's a trap. I think this is a total trap subclass. I think it's a D for me. Okay. I think that and this subclass for me kind of redefines what the D is for the bard, because I no longer believe that the swords bard or the valor bard are D tier bards.
What about the whispers?
Maybe, even though the whispers, I would rather play whispers than this, because at least I have some control. Like, okay, like the one I'm conflicted though too, because like the one ability that's really strong with the subclass is turning the saving throw into a charisma saving throw. But even then, that ability only matters if you're turning a really strong save into the monster's weakest save, or a weaker one, and they didn't either, and like it's in that middle zone of where you never really know if it mattered, like if it made a difference.
And that's the weird thing, is like maybe it was a Constitution saving throw and the creature rolled a 1, and you went ahead and changed it to charisma using your once a day ability for something that never mattered. Or maybe it turns out that this monster that you're like, oh, they look beefy, they probably have a high Constitution, actually also has a high charisma, and you don't know that. So again, it's a gamble.
Yeah, I'm confident in saying it's a C-, but I really think this is as close, like this feels like a trap subclass. And what's really unfortunate about it is that it's a trap in that it's trying to give you something back for when you roll badly, rather than trying to make it so that you weren't in that situation to begin with. Like if you're rolling lots of ones, getting lots out of your abilities from the subclass. Your party was still rolling a ton of ones.
This, again, the theme, this subclass feeds off of tragedy, but you expend all your resources for a chance to make those tragedies into something
rather than a sure thing.
Yeah.
Right? You're not getting any assurance out of it that is guaranteed.
I'll stick with my C.
Okay.
But
yep.
I don't want to hurt Matt's feelings.
Yeah. Moving on to the clerics, they get two subclasses, the Blood Domain and the Moon Domain. The Blood Domain spell list consists of False Life, Sleep, Hold Person, Ray of Enfeeblement, Haste and Slow, Blight and Stone Skin, Dominate Person, and Hold Monster. The class also gets proficiency with martial weapons. Spell list.
Spell list, 5 out of 10.
Haste and Slow are amazing on a cleric.
Yes.
Yep.
5 of these spells are spells that I would absolutely want to have.
Yeah.
5 of them are ones that I would trade off or not use.
Yeah. But overall, pretty strong, I would say. Putting haste in the cleric's arsenal is fun.
Yeah.
It means that your concentration has a lot of competition.
Yes. That's one problem.
Yeah.
But I mean, even between haste and slow, I love both those spells. I'm probably going to cast haste more, but slow is also really useful. Yep. At first level, you gain bloodletting focus. When you cast a damage-dealing spell of first level or higher whose duration is instantaneous, any creature with blood that takes damage from the spell takes an extra necrotic damage equal to 2 plus the spell's level.
So this is a first level ability, which is eminently dippable. This is like Life Domain Cleric, but instead of healing, it's for damage. So if you dip one level of this as another spellcaster, you add 5 damage onto your fireballs. You add 7 damage onto Cone of Cold.
It does add damage to your Guiding Bolt, which is your kind of go-to first level attack spell.
Right.
What about Spirit Guardians?
No, because the spell's duration has to be instantaneous, so it won't work on concentration spells. It also wouldn't... Does it work on Spiritual Weapon? No, because the duration of Spiritual Weapon is 1 minute. So for normal cleric, it's only going to work on things like Blight, Guiding Bolt, Flame Strike. So pretty limited for a regular cleric. But for a multi-class character, like this would add 5 damage to a fireball, as we said before. So I could see, honestly, this is a great dip.
This is a very dippable
This
cleric.
is very dippable. Right? This is already like S tier dip.
This is your French onion dip.
Yeah. Also at second level, you gain the channel divinity to form a supernatural bond called the Crimson Bond. You bond with a creature that you can see or a creature that is a blood sample, and you have to concentrate on it in order to maintain it. Similar to how Familiar works, you can see through the target's eyes and ears and see what it sees as long as you take damage. So this is kind of a utility power where it's like, if there's a creature out there and you have a sample of their blood, you can see what they're seeing remotely and look through them. So it's like a lower level creature-based scrying power. Could be useful in some circumstances, could be pretty not useful in others. It does require your concentration, so I think that this is more of a non-combat ability. But at level 6, we gain another channel divinity called the Blood Puppet, which lets you briefly control a creature's actions, whether it's living or dead, as long as it has blood. This is a complex ability as well, but it's basically Dominate Person.
It's blood bending from The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
And what's cool is you can reanimate a corpse as long as that corpse has blood in it to fight for you. Yeah. Or you can animate an unconscious target. What's great about this, the easiest use, killing a target during combat and then lifting them back up to fight for you.
You have to concentrate on it, and they have to be large or smaller, or they can eventually be huge or smaller. You can actually use this to take control of something that's not dead, but they get a saving throw against it. And then while you're controlling them, you can basically force them to move around or make attacks. So it's a pretty powerful ability for basically, hey, we just fought a bunch of ogres or giants or something that just has a really big, beefy melee attack. You take control of them, command them to attack things for it.
Now that'll have to be at later levels for the ogres and giants, but
for the bigger giants, but large creatures you get right away. So this is this basically gives you access to a dominate monster like effect, because bear in mind, dominate person is only humanoids.
Yeah.
So conceivably, dragons have blood.
Now,
so you could use this to take control of a young dragon.
This is where DM discretion also comes up, because my question is, if I am fighting a mummy, mummies are usually drained of their blood. That's how they get mummified.
Okay.
So I cannot raise a mummy. If I was a DM, I'd probably be like, sure, there's a drop of blood still in there, or maybe I wouldn't. I don't know.
Demons and devils traditionally have blood.
Do they?
Yeah, because demon blood is kind of like a spell component, isn't it traditionally?
Dragons have blood.
Dragons definitely.
Constructs don't. I think that's the point.
Giants definitely do.
Ghosts, no blood.
What about a blood ghost?
We have to make the blood ghost now.
Or what about a blood elemental?
That's the only elemental.
What if you are fighting a water elemental and you pour...
What if my fire elemental has magma blood? Does that count?
Yeah.
What if my water elemental...
Blood of the earth.
Yeah, blood of the earth.
Yeah. Do plants have... Yeah.
It's a pretty loose idea on what does and doesn't have... I think that it's actually more obvious than we're making it out to be. But crafty players are going to be like, the water elemental has water blood.
This is strong.
It is.
This is strong. It's pretty close to dominate monster instead of as an 8th level spell, as a channel divinity power that a cleric gets at level 6.
So at 6th level, you also gain sanguine recall. You can sacrifice a bit of your own vitality to recover expanded spell slots. Basically, you take damage, you regain a spell slot.
You get to do this once per day?
Yes. And depending on how much damage you want to take, you can regain more and higher spell slots.
Also, like all clerics, you get Divine Strike at level 8, so you get the extra... when you hit with a weapon attack, you cause them to take an extra d8 necrotic damage, goes to 2d8 later. And at level 17, you get Vascular Corruption Aura, which is a great name. It's a deathly aura that for 1 minute, hostile creatures with blood that are within 30 feet of you take damage. If a hostile creature with blood regains hit points, it regains only half as much. You can only use this on a long rest, which is kind of limiting for how often you can use it. This character is all about the channel divinity power. It's haste, slow, channel divinity. These are the strengths of this subclass. And the damage on spells, but that's the multi-classing.
It has a pretty good spell list. Not the best that we've seen, but 5 out of 10 isn't bad. There are 5 really good spells on here. That first ability that you get, great. One of the channel divinities, I think we have a niche one, and then we have a really useful one.
Yeah, a one that you're going to use all the time. You have to concentrate on it. And so that's another problem for this cleric, is that you've got haste, you've got slow, you've got your blood bending power, you've got all the other good stuff that clerics bring to the table. It's like, what are you going to concentrate on? Because you can't have all these things at the same time.
And for that reason, I actually think that this might be a B for me.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. It's one very single powerful ability. It's not... I don't think it's broken. Like, your little blood puppet can only move half its speed. It only makes 1 attack. It's not like you can blood puppet a spellcaster and force them to cast spells for you.
No, it's a very basic control, but it's still really cool and really useful, which is why I think this is a good subclass.
Yeah.
It's just there's a lot of things vying for your concentration.
Yeah.
It's a great dip.
Yes, it is an S tier dip for a damage dealing spellcaster that wants that damage buff, because it's a lot of, like, 2 plus the spell level extra damage on any damage dealing spell is basically, in a lot of cases, it's like upcasting that spell for 1 or 2 levels higher, right? Like, it's good.
So B tier, I think it might be useful in some campaigns, especially campaigns where your 2nd level channel divinity is going to come into play a lot more. Then it's going to be more useful. Yeah,
if you are playing the mummy and fighting skeletons and constructs and creatures without blood, you're going to be sad. You've still got haste and slow, though.
As we move on to the Moon Domain Cleric, let's take a look at their spell list. You get Fairy Fire, Silent Image, Invisibility, Moonbeam, Hypnotic Pattern, Major Image, Greater Invisibility, Hallucinatory Terrain, Dream, and Pass Wall.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. I would use all of those spells.
Even the niche ones, like, okay, my favorite example is Pass Wall. I bring up this spell a lot. Pass Wall is a spell that I rarely ever take, but love to have.
Hallucinatory Terrain as well. This character has all the invisibilities. It has all the illusion spells, and then just in case you didn't need anything else, it's like have Moonbeam and Hypnotic Pattern.
So good. Now, again, a lot of these are vying for our concentration, but we'll see.
We'll see in a moment about this. So, Clarity of Katha, when you choose a domain at first level, you learn to shine a light on the life's most dire moments. When someone within 30 feet of you makes a wisdom saving throw, you use your reaction to give them advantage. Great! Proficiency bonus number of times uses regains on a long rest. Wisdom saving throws are scary. Great to hand someone an advantage. You can also give a blessing of the full moon with your channeled divinity starting at second level to bless somebody to give them a 10-foot movement bonus to their speed, or give them basically pack tactics, which is advantage on attack rolls. These are two pretty good channeled divinity powers, but once you get to 6th level, you're just not going to use them anymore.
At 6th level, you get Mind of Two Moons as a channeled divinity. This is going to allow you to concentrate on a spell while already concentrating on another spell. So you can concentrate on 2 spells as long as both of them are of your Moon Domain spells. If you get hit, you do have to make your concentration check with disadvantage if you're concentrating on 2 spells. Otherwise, you lose them both. However, you can concentrate on 2 spells. They do have to be from your spell list, but let's talk again about how the spell list is 10 out of 10. They're almost all concentration spells, but do you want to be invisible while casting Moonbeam? Do you want to have Fairy Fire and Greater Invisibility? Do you want to have... what else?
Okay.
There's,
so
many things.
There's so many things you can do with this. One of my first questions actually is, can you just concentrate on 2 instances of the same spell? So can you just have 2 Moonbeams?
That would be really cool, and I don't see any text that says we can't.
Greater invisibility on yourself plus like any of these spells plus casting greater invisibility on yourself is amazing, because then you are making it difficult for the enemies to target you, and thus inherently getting around the limitation of having disadvantage on the concentration check, because you're greater invisible. And so you're greater invisible while your Moonbeam is just like lasering everybody on the battlefield.
I think that's my go-to is Greater Invisibility and Moonbeam.
Yeah.
I'm hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
There's a huge blasting field.
Or you could have a bunch of enemies that are under Hypnotic Pattern, and the one that your party is actually attacking is Fairy Fired. Or you could have an illusion spell happening, a major because it's invisibility and the illusion spells and hypnotic
you have damage dealing, you have utility, the spell list has a bit of everything, and you get to concentrate on 2 of them.
And you can't even go, but too bad you can't concentrate on Spirit Guardians at the same time, because you get Moonbeam, which is going to act as your proxy for Spirit. You're going to use Moonbeam instead of Spirit Guardians, and you'll upcast Moonbeam, does comparable damage, and you don't even have to... you wouldn't want to do that anyways, because you have disadvantage on the concentration check if you get hit, and Spirit Guardians has that short range. You don't want to be moving up.
Yeah.
Right? You want the range of that.
And this comes online at 6th level. That's so early for an ability that's concentrate on 2 spells. It's great.
This is why the Dungeon Master's Guide tells you not to put abilities in the game like characters concentrate on 2 spells at once.
I mean, we did with our monk.
Yeah, but
that's a monk.
That's a monk. A 17th level monk.
Yes. You also get empowered cantrips at 8th level. As usual, you can kind of tell what type of cleric they want you to be by that feature. Are you getting bonuses to your damage or bonuses to your cantrips? Cantrips, again, makes me feel like we're standing back.
17th level, you can call the Eclipse as well. You have to concentrate on this Eclipse, but everyone that is in the light that you summon from this has disadvantage on saving throws, except your allies. So call the Eclipse.
And you can concentrate on this as part of your double
Yeah.
concentration, as
Yeah.
if it were one of your spell list spells.
Yes. Yeah. So you can call the Eclipse and then Hypnotic Pattern everybody with disadvantage.
You can call the Eclipse and Moonbeam. You can call the Eclipse and Greater
Yeah.
Invisibility. I think this is an S tier subclass.
Yes. Yes.
The spell list is unreal.
The spell list is unreal, and you can concentrate on 2 spells at once with your Channel Divinity. Yeah, it's
This one,
any question? Any questions?
this is going into the Twilight Cleric, Peace
Yeah,
Cleric
I
category.
I didn't know it was possible to make a subclass. Like, honestly, the Twilight Cleric is still really strong compared to this, but like, this is ridiculously strong.
Would you allow it? I mean, you allow most things. You have a way to do. I mean,
I think the thing I do allow most things. So the disadvantage on
concentration checks.
I would allow it, but I want to give a very, very important caveat. This is not a template for other abilities, right? There are still some important limitations, like limiting it to the domain spell list and these specific spells was necessary.
Yeah.
And even within that, like the fact that it put a hard battlefield control, one of the best ongoing damage dealing spells in the game in the form of Moonbeam and invisibility. Like the only thing that this subclass is lacking is the ability to fly.
Yeah.
And I guess teleport.
Give them the boots of flying. And see what happens.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah.
And a cape of the mountebank.
Yeah,
There.
yeah. The one thing that this does do correctly in the how do you design an ability that lets a character concentrate on 2 spells at once? The way that you make an ability like that is by saying these are the specific spells that you're allowed to do with.
And the
which is what this
disadvantage.
does. Like it's not an ability that says, hey, any 2 spells in the entire game, you can concentrate on both of them at once. This subclass has said, here's 10 spells, you can concentrate on 2 of these ones at once. And so that is an important limitation on this ability. And then you use your Channel Divinity for that, so you're paying a cost for it. It's just not anything all the time. So I think that this is probably one of the closest ways to balance that ability.
I'm more shocked that you get it at 6th level. Like it's still balanced,
me too.
and it's done well, but you get it really early.
My basic rule of thumb is that a spell that doesn't require you to concentrate on it is generally anywhere from 2 to 4 levels higher than its equivalent, right? And that there's certain effects that characters should just never not be able to concentrate on. Like, the bad example is Wall of Force and Force Cage.
Mm-hmm.
Force Cage is a 7th level spell that works in a lot of ways like Wall of Force, but it doesn't have concentration. It probably should be a higher level spell or have concentration on it, right? Yeah, overall,
S tier.
S tier.
With this cleric, it's just dawning on me now that spiritual weapon is also still in play here. So we can have our moonbeam while we're invisible with a spiritual weapon.
And then
around.
casting Toll the Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, while you're greater invisible. Yep.
Lastly, we come up to our druid subclass, the Circle of the Blighted, which, with its first ability, Defile Ground. Starting at 2nd level, you can create a 10-foot radius patch of ground within 60 feet of you. It lasts for a minute, and it becomes difficult terrain for any creatures that are hostile towards you. If a creature within that area takes damage from an attack or spell for the first time on their turn, they take an additional 1d4 necrotic damage. You also can move the patch 30 feet as a bonus action, and as you gain levels, this patch gets bigger, and the damage that the creatures take increases.
Worth noting that this is each time a creature takes damage on a turn. So what this means is that if you have a boss that is in this area, every one of your allies benefit from it once on their turns.
It just doesn't apply to multi-attack. So a fighter getting 4 attacks, they're still only doing the extra damage once, but each person gets that extra damage.
Also at second level, you get proficiency in intimidation, and when you're wild shaped, you get a +2 bonus to the AC in whatever form you're in, as well as gaining dark vision in that form. At level 6, you gain Call of the Shadow Seats. You summon the feral children of the forest from the life force of your enemies. When they take damage within your defiled ground, you can use your reaction to summon a blighted sapling within 5 feet of it. You direct that sapling to make an attack against any creature within 5 feet of it as part of this reaction. The sapling then acts on your initiative, obeying your commands, and it remains in your service till it's reduced to 0 hit points until the end of your long rest, at which point it crumbles into mulch. You get to use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain it when you finish a long rest. The sapling has a basic summon stat block. It has it's a medium-sized creature with armor class equal to 10 plus your proficiency bonus. Its hit points are equal to twice your druid level. It gets multi-attack at level 14, but normally it just has a claw attack that deals 2d4 plus your proficiency bonus damage and uses your spell attack modifier to hit. It's a decent little summon that you don't have to concentrate on, that just comes out for free.
And if it gets killed, you can always just summon up another one, since that damage is being repeated almost every turn.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have one of these little saplings, since you're creating that blighted ground. And of course, again, that blighted ground gets bigger at higher levels. So you're more likely to always have a sapling.
Yeah.
And at 10th level, all creatures that you conjure that are either beast, fey, or plant, which includes your blighted saplings, gain a few additional benefits. They become immune to necrotic and poison damage, as well as the poison condition, and when they're reduced to 0 hit points, they explode. Each creature within 5 feet must succeed on a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC, or take necrotic damage based on the creature's challenge rating. There's a little table in here about how the challenge rating equates to how much damage they take, or what to do if the creature doesn't have a challenge rating.
Also, as an action, you can cause a summoned creature that you have to explode, immediately killing it and doing this damage.
I actually feel like there's a play here where every turn you can if your blight is still standing by the time you get to, just blow it up, and then you can just summon another one the next time.
Challenge rating 1/4 or lower does 1d4 necrotic damage. 1/2 does 1d6. 1 or higher does d8s equal to its challenge rating. And if it's no challenge rating, like your blighted sapling, its d6 is equal to your proficiency bonus. So my question is you can cause one of your summoned creatures to explode. But if you summon a bunch of creatures that don't have a lot of hit points and cause one of them to explode, which causes another one to die, does it set off a chain reaction?
So if I summon a whole bunch of tiny bunnies, and then I blow up my sapling, and it causes a chain reaction, exploding rabbits everywhere.
Yeah, could you do that? Could you just summon a bunch of squirrels and blow the squirrels up?
Yeah.
Okay, pass me my laptop really quick. Okay, so conjure animals. It summons 8 creatures of challenge rating 1/4 or lower. Frogs, owls, and rats all only have 1 hit point, and their challenge rating 0. So you can summon 8 of them.
Blow one up.
And then does it cause a chain reaction that does now 8d4 damage?
In theory, yes. So that's what I would be doing.
And when you...
Rain of Toads. I want to be a little swamp witch who summons raining toads who
Exploding toads? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you upcast, you could summon even more.
I'm spending my spell slot to just summon so many toads.
Exploding toads.
Exploding toads.
I think, technically speaking, with conjure animals, you still probably deal more damage by summoning them and having them attack than just letting them blow up.
This is that weird kid that takes the little firecrackers and puts them in a toad. And you're just unleashing firecracker toads. Don't do that.
No,
I never did that.
Don't do that. But
I've heard stories of people doing that. It's one of those a friend of mine stories. You always hear about it. I never actually known anybody who did that.
But still, explode a toad is funny.
Yeah, explode a toad. It's more fun. It's a fun ability.
I like the idea of potentially exploding your little blight dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize at first reading, but looking at it again, you can't have more than one blight at a time. I wish that you could have multiple blights and then blow them all up.
Finally, at 14th level, you gain the Incarnation of Corruption, and your physical form becomes kind of blighted. Spines emerge from your body, and you just have a +2 bonus to AC. Whenever you start the turn within your defiled ground, you have to spend a bonus action to get temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. For a high-level ability, but...
I think a +2 bonus to your AC and constantly getting temporary hit points. I think this is... I like this subclass. I think it's really good...
Yeah, it's a decent summoner. I think it's a B.
I think it's an A.
I think it's a B.
I might just be distracted by exploding toads, but...
Yeah, I think you are. This is nowhere near as strong as, like, the Shepherd Druid.
No, because the Shepherd Druid's an S.
Okay.
You don't have to agree with me. I'm just saying, when I look at an A-tier subclass, I ask myself, what are the key things that I want the class to do, and does the subclass make those things better? With a Druid, I want to summon, and I want to wild shape. Both of those are improved upon by this subclass.
Yeah, they are, but I don't think that they're okay. Neither of these things are improved so much so.
It's no Moon Druid and it's no Shepherd Druid.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's below those. For me, that's an A.
I think it's a B.
Fair.
Yeah.
So, all in all, we've looked at the Tal'Dorei subclass of the first half. We're going to look at the second half.
Some high highs and some low lows.
I mean, for me, other than the Bard, nothing else here was really a big letdown. Like, yeah, we had a couple Bs, a lot of good As. And
I like the Barbarian.
Yeah?
I conceptually, I love all the subclasses.
Conceptually, yes.
Right. I think that the Bard definitely is so far the loser.
It's more concept over mechanic.
The Cleric is the most, whoa, what is this?
Yeah, the Moon Cleric is scary.
Yeah.
I don't know about it, but like it's amazing.
Yeah.
The Druid is actually probably my favorite for hitting that balance.
You just like the exploding toads.
Of flavor and mechanics. I'm not saying that it's the strongest. I'm just saying it reaches that happy medium where it feels really flavorful and the mechanics help deliver that.
Let us know what you thought of these new subclasses in the comments below. We'll be back next time with the remaining 5 subclasses in the book.
Yeah, if you have a favorite subclass from this book, please let us know which one it is, or whether you've played any of these subclasses. Tell us about how that went in the comments below.
The videos we create on our channel are made possible with the incredible generosity of our Patreon supporters. If you like the work that we do, please consider joining our Patreon, get on our patron-only Discord. Follow the links right down below.
And if you want to see us playing D&D 5e, you can check out our actual play in the Worlds of Drakenheim, which airs Tuesday evenings on Twitch. You can find all the previous episodes right up over here.
And we've got plenty more tier ranking videos that you can check out right up over here.
Please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you never miss an episode.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time
in the dungeon.